A beautiful morning to you. Thanks for joining me on Business Insights. Today, the show will focus on the manufacturing sector as we continue in the series, Roles of Small Businesses in the Economy. First on the lineup is a roundup of trending stories in the business world. I am Blessing Aichi. Once again, thanks for joining me on Business Insight. Now, going straight into the news, Nigeria is where we begin. The Lagos State government has given the go-ahead for digital learning gadgets to be used in primary and secondary schools. These devices will be used by both teachers and students in the education system. Abayomi Abolaji, who works at the State Education Ministry, revealed that the Success Tab digital devices have really good educational items on them. Also, Souq Tab is easy to use with lots of educational materials and fancy tools that help students. Its curriculum coverage is wide, has interactive lessons like videos that help students think better. Through a partnership agreement between Chronicles Software and Lagos State Government, Souq Tab was brought to some public schools to help students learn better. Away from education now to tax, the president has inaugurated a team to work on tax. President Tinubu has created a special team to make tax collection better. The president, while starting the team, said the poor should not be burdened with taxes when the country should be making more people successful. The new group is called the Presidential Committee on Making Taxes and Rules Better. It was inaugurated by President Tinubu in July and is led by Mr. Taiwo Oyedele, who has years of experience in the tax industry. This team is tasked with changing how taxes work. Moving now to the Middle East, following a strong growth of all its key sectors such as transportation, storage, finance and insurance, Dubai's economy grew by 2.8% year-on-year in the first quarter of the year to 111.3 billion dirham. As part of its Dubai's Economy Agenda D33, the country plans to position itself as one of the top economic cities of the world and double its economic size to 32 trillion dirham in the next 10 years. According to the Crown Prince of Dubai and Executive Chairman of the Council, Sheikh Hamdan bin Mohammed Al Maktoum, Dubai's growth in the first quarter of 2023 is way higher than that of some of the most developed countries in the world, with data given by the Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development, OECD, showing a seasonally adjusted growth of 1.61% for OECD countries. Zoom, in a blog post, has stated that its audio, video and chat were not used for AI training without consent. Zoom had in June launched AI-powered features, one of which was a free trial feature which allowed clients to summarize meetings without having to record an entire session. However, some experts warned that the original term of service could have allowed Zoom access more user data than is necessary, including customer calls. Zoom late on Monday updated its term to clarify that Zoom will not use audio, video or chat customer content to train its artificial intelligence models without the customer's consent. Moving now to entertainment, Walt Disney made a team to learn about smart computers and how they can help in entertainment. This is happening while people who work in Hollywood try to make sure smart computers are used fairly. The team started earlier this year before Hollywood writers and actors embarked on a strike. The team aims to make smart computer. A supporter thinks smart computers could help make movies and TV shows without spending too much money. According to the supporter, sometimes shows and movies cost as much as $300 million, like Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny or The Little Mermaid, which have to earn a lot of money at the box office so as not to lose money. And finally, the Italian government has imposed a one-off 40% tax on banks on profits gained from higher interest rates after warning lenders from failing to reward deposits. According to reports, the Italian Prime Minister Giorgia Meloni's administration had earlier this year considered the idea, but seemed to have piped down on it. But the huge gains made by the banks brought the issues back into focus, promoting or prompting the government to act. Commenting on the development, one government source said the action came as a surprise even to some ministers, suggesting the government is trying to punish the unfair behaviors of the banks. The government plans to use proceeds from the tax to help those struggling with the cost of living, like mortgage holders. And now to Japan. Japan and Namibia team up to look for special minerals, as Japan and Namibia have agreed to work together to find some special minerals. This is part of Japan's bigger plan to get minerals like cobalt for making batteries in electric cars. A group in Japan called JOGMEC will work with Namibia's mining company called Ipangelo. The two companies will work to find these minerals. This was revealed by an official from Namibia's Mining and Energy Ministry after the signing of the agreement in Windhoek. Yasutoshi Nishimura, who is in charge of trade and industry in Japan, is visiting 5 countries to find these special minerals. Countries such as Namibia and Congo have a lot of special minerals. One of them is called dysprosium and terbium. They're important for making powerful magnets in electric car batteries and wind turbines. Moving now to stock market reports, starting with the Nigerian Stock Exchange. At the end of Tuesday's trading session on the Nigerian Stock Exchange, a total of 317,808,298 shares in 6,376 deals with a market value of over 4 billion naira were traded. Compared with the previous trading day, which was Monday, the 7th of August 2023, the data showed that there was a 5% decline in volume, 15% improvement in turnover, but 8% decline in deals. The current market capitalization of the Nigerian Stock Exchange is 35.5 trillion naira. Now, in the aggregate, 120 listed equities participated in trading, which ended with 29 gainers and 24 losers. Now, among the gainers, we have Guinness Niger, and we also have appreciating GlaxoSmithKline and Chelms and the Initiates. Now, on the losing side, we have Secure Electronic Technology, amongst others. So quickly, let's see the prices of some commodities at the global commodity markets. All right, there you see the price of wheat. You also get to see the price of Brent crude, which is a little over $84 per barrel at the global market. Now, away from commodities, let's get to find out what the Naira exchanges to major currencies of the world. So right now, the Naira exchanges to the US dollar officially at 761 Naira, but at the black market, that is around 821 naira, and that's 895 naira at the official rate. You have the naira exchanging to the pound sterling at 822 naira, but when you go over to the black market, you get it at 1,170 naira. And then for the Japanese yen, it is 5 naira 24 kobo to the naira. The Ghana cedis exchanges at 67 naira 96 kobo to the naira. And exchange rate completes the roundup of trending stories on Business Insight. Up next after the break is some analysis of trending reports, and that will take us to the continuation of our series, which is the role of small businesses in the economy. Today we'll be looking at the manufacturing industry. Stay tuned for the rest of the show. Many thanks for being there. So let's look at some of the issues. We'll begin with the Nigerian Stock Exchange and Jimo Latif, who is a stockbroker and, of course, a finance expert, is here this morning. Good morning, sir.
Good morning.
How are you today?
I'm good, thank you.
All right, you're smiling. I guess maybe that's because there's been a 15% improvement in turnover after yesterday's trading.
Well, turnover. I want to talk in terms of the all shares index, and
Okay.
you see that the BSC dominated the market yesterday, and then all share index clipped by almost 4%, upon 4%, whatever. And although we're still looking at the bargaining hunting in terms of the share, because the sell-off of some company like Geregu, WAPCO, actually attributed to the downfall yesterday, because the sell-off actually impacted on the volume of the share traded, and which actually affected the total market inputs yesterday. So, well, it's still a good thing. We're still expecting a better day, but for now, the sentiment of the seller will still continue, because the bargaining hunting is still going on.
All right, we continue after this break. Stay tuned. All right, thank you for staying tuned to Business Insight. Now, we need to take a look at some of the trending stories that made the news this morning on Business Insight. I still have Jimo Latif, who was talking about all-share index at the Nigerian Stock Exchange yesterday. So, you were talking about not really being too big on the turnover, but being concerned about the all-share index at the end of the day.
Because the major determinant of the market is the oil share index, which has to be done in terms of the deal and the volume, and in terms of the previous year transaction. And as yesterday, we witnessed a slip or downturn in the market by 4 basis points. And this is basically driven by the fact that the sell-off of some companies like Geregu and other small companies that actually, like WAPCO and Dangote Sugar, they actually slipped. And these are better deals in the market that affected the whole transaction. But like I initially said, it's expected anyway. You don't expect a market to be static, to be selling and buying. And the bargaining hunting is still going on. Like I said, people are still watching the market, try to look at where they need to enter the market. As I told you, the second quarter result just came out. People are still watching, look at the fundamentals. Are they in green that they can enter? Though people are not expected to just enter the market because you want the market to move. No, you want to make money from the market. So in that wise, you need to sit down to look at. But I know the bargaining hunters are still looking for where to put all their investment.
All right, at the end of trading, we had 29 gainers and 24 losers yesterday at the NGX. So amongst the gainers, we had Guinness Nigeria, and those who made the losers list yesterday, we also had Secure Electronic Technology and some others.
We have to look at Guinness itself. I think it belongs to the Consumer Goods Index. Look at sectors update. We have NGX, which are, most of them are very good, fantastic. Jais Bank, Zenith Bank, UB, and Access Co. ETI losses, Sterling loss, and the Fidelity. In terms of the consumer goods, we have Cadbury, negative, Nigerian Flour Mill, negative. Guinness is about 10% plus. So that's a positive on that side. But in terms of others, the oil and gas is still very flat. The industrial index is very flat. But in those, I mean, the mover yesterday is still the banking sector. That's what I want to tell you. Although Guinness has a better in the consumer index sector, that's what I'm saying.
But why is the oil and gas index flat? Sometimes it does happen that when there is an increase in the price of crude, maybe somehow that also positively affects the oil and gas sector, because we see now that Brent crude is almost $95 per barrel. Good.
Like I said, what determines the market doesn't mean that. Even if you look at international market, how does it affect your own local market? We're talking of oil and gas in Nigeria, not in terms of Brent crude, in terms of energy, whatever. But in Nigeria now, we have some things that people are still looking at. In terms of the pricing, in terms of, we have a local problem.
Okay, there are a lot of internal issues
that may not allow and then we have CNG. People are trying to move away from
using petrol to CNG.
So these are the things people are looking at. Okay, let me wait. Let me see what will happen in this sector.
So speculation
to go. So we have to look at it we have to look at our domestic problem, not in terms of international issue. They have their own too, but at least we're talking of oil and gas in Nigeria, not oil and gas in total.
Okay, so coming now to domestic issues, the president has inaugurated a team to deal with taxes, improving tax collection. Now, he mentioned that the country cannot continue to tax the poor. But this team has a task of improving taxes, making tax rules better. So what's your take on this new team and their assignments?
Thank you very much. Before I go to the new team composition and the likely the ability in driving revenue, this government, since its inception, has actually been highlighting the revenue mobilization. In terms, we are just mono-economic in terms of we are looking at other places we can play in effective. In order to plug this particular, this is another area. It's a statutory deduction. It's an obligatory deduction on everybody. But we have several laws that guide tax in Nigeria. Apart from the 7 canon law of taxation, that you have to be convenience, you have to be this, you have to be that. When the cost of administering, for instance, you have 100,000 naira, you now pay costs about 90,000. That means you're talking effectively you make 100, but in efficiency there's no efficiency. So we need to plug those costs. The cost of administrative revenue is very high. In terms of that, we have to look at them they need to harmonize all tiers of taxes. You know, people, there are multiple taxes everywhere. These are, if all the taxes are being handled by JT, John Tax Board, we have one, and they are able to streamline the collection processes. In that, they've been monitored. There's a control in the collection as against the cost of collecting it itself. But we're talking of the control is instead to make sure that every collection is accounted for. So this is what, by the time you harmonize this, then you can really account. And mind it must be data driven. With that, if there's no data, there's no way you can have a good collection. So these are the things these new boards will be looking at. They're experts. They're my colleagues in tax and accounting. And I know, Ayodele has been my lecturer. He has taught me financial reporting. I know him very well. Okosa is the current president of Institute of Accountants. And these are people that I know they have with to actually. And what they are actually going to, it was what the table to differ. This is the way to go to be able to have effectiveness, to be efficient in the collection itself. And if you look at it, this tax administration we're talking about, the existing landscape for tax is not that good. We have different people taking money to their own pocket, not limited. These are areas I think we want to plug. And plugging that means that we have more revenue at the federal government disposal to be able to do the needful to the populace. So these are the areas, the guides of the people that are coming to give guidance, because they are device free.
Okay. Now, but looking at what the president is saying, that the country cannot continue burdening the poor with taxes, is that an indirect way of saying the rich will be taxed more? Because there's been an argument that it's not about tax collection specifically, but it's about expanding the tax net. So are you saying the group or the team coming up with a recommendation for the tax nets to be widened towards collecting more from the rich and bigger companies?
Good. Tax net widening doesn't mean that we have people that, if you look at the collection to people that's supposed to is very low. So in terms of the company that evade tax, not even have, we have type of avoidance tax evidence. And what we're saying now is that there are people that avoid tax. Looking at the existing law, looking at the loopholes to be able to get, but we want to look at those laws we look into. And looking at those laws means that if you are the taxability of that particular economy will depend on who and who are like for instance, you just said that some people, maybe dependents, will not be, like from yesterday to, I heard that some senior citizen will be, if you are, maybe you're retiring, you'll not be, this tax they call, I've forgotten the name of the tax, you'll be exempted from that particular tax. That's not what, but effective means that people that need to pay tax are paying the right tax. Why did the net mean that you need to know, okay, people that need to be in the night, that are not in, need to get them. And that's why I said data driven. They have a very good data to be able to do this.
Do we have the data to support the work of this new team?
Well, we have. They can annex the data from different data points. You have bank. They can get from the banks the name of the company that is existing. The individual will be an time of a BVN. No, BVN is already tied to your bank. From there, they'll be able to know who and who is this and be able to act effectively in terms of we have various tax. We have company income tax, we have withholding tax, we have consumption tax in terms of VAT, and we have personal income tax. We are being taxed by the employer on employees. And all these taxes would need to, if you have a good data, if I can get a company, I will know how many people are working in that company to be able to tax them effectively. The company itself needs to be taxed. And in terms of that is what I mean by data driven. You need to look at the various places we can get data to be able to bring people that are avoiding tax into the tax nets. And apart from that, if I tell you about the tax, the problem we have is not even about the tax net, the effectiveness of tax. There are multiple taxes everywhere. People are tired. And most of people haven't looked at, why should I even need to give this government when they not do the right thing? Apart from you dragging the wide, you need to have, make sure the populace have confidence.
Tax incentives.
No, apart from tax incentive, I can't be dropping my money on ventures. I want to see what my money is for.
Okay.
The essence of tax is to make life bearable for me.
So they should be,
able
correlation
to do
between taxes collected
there must be connection
what
with
is
tax
used
collection
for.
and what is used for. That is the essence of tax. And if you look at the divide among themselves, in terms of the 3 tiers of government, at the end of the year, the VAT, because VAT actually dropped more revenue to government than other taxes now in Nigeria, because the consumption tax. So consumption tax is everybody in as much you are eating, you'll be dropping tax. You won't know. They call it indirect taxes. You won't know, but you'll be dropping tax because the tax is burden on you through, and somebody is collecting on behalf of government on you, but you won't know. That is it.
Okay, coming to harmonizing the tax tiers, we'll find that one tier of the tax collection that's usually challenged is that of the local government collecting taxes. Now, we're talking about, you mentioned the team ensuring that the leakage in revenue collection is reduced. How is that going to be possible? Let's say 100%, because we have most of the informal players at the local levels.
Thank you. No, we have 3 tiers of government, and each tier has its own taxability or what taxing to be taken by that particular government. The state has kind of tax you can tax. You can't tax CIT, you can't tax petroleum tax, the federal tax those ones. But in terms of pay as you hand, withholding tax, probably other taxes. In local government, we have radio licenses, tenants, whatever they would normally do. That. But what we say now, to be able to harmonize this tax, means we are one sovereign body. Let's that part okay, let's move for instance, the joint tax board administer that particular entity. That any tax that goes to no collection from the local level, everything be paid to the federal post. By the time we harmonize this, there will be more, because instead of, if local government, this one will take now, we'll go and give it to one of the chief or whatever. What we're saying now is that to be able to harmonize, you really need to understand. First of plug, second, try to look at the effectiveness and the willingness to pay off the populace, because willingness is another thing. And to have willingness, you need to do good to me to be able to campaign. But normally, the statutory deduction is a responsibility on every populace to make sure you pay your tax.
Okay, so this team has the incorporation of several persons, including a 400-level economics student from University of Ibadan. What's your thoughts on that?
What?
Someone who's yet to leave school was already part of the team to work on revamping the tax sector.
If you look at the name of that girl, it's called Odile, meaning fortunate person in English. So the lady is fortunate. But although I know the lady have started heading the tax club in the school. So, and it's a catch them young stuff, and I really appreciate it. I mean, we're beginning to see the government that are more proactive in looking at people that need to, because I believe anybody, it has an impact on the student that everybody, come on, let me do this thing so that I can be recognized. It's a good recognition, which I believe impacted well. The lady has been heading the tax, is there's not to have, at least we will have 1 or 2 things to be able to influence the student to do better things. That's what I believe.
All right, it's a nice way to see things happen in Nigeria. You know, there's always been the advocacy that we should have more of gown-to-town influence. That is, those in the academia, those who are doing research, and all, we should have an input in that in the informal sector, but this is happening first in the formal sector. So let's hope that we'll get to see more of that. Maybe next it will be a student from engineering that will be incorporated into a team.
That has to do with maybe more of research into engineering aspect of it, which is good. It's good because these are things, these are people that will come to be the leader tomorrow if they are involved in the way governance is being done. The better prepared. That's what I mean.
Okay, thank you very much. We'll go on a quick break and then return. Don't go anywhere. Thank you very much, Jimolete.
Thank you very much.
All right, now let's get into the main business of the day. That is the manufacturing business. We've looked at some of the issues that are trending in the economic scene in Nigeria and globally, but we've dwelt on some of them in Nigeria. So let's also look at the manufacturing business. Remember that Monday we started a series looking at the roles of small businesses in the economy, and today we're looking at manufacturing business. Now this sector is very key because of how they supply other industries with what they deal on. Now if you sell a particular item, you would need that item to have been manufactured before it gets into your shop. So Juma Latif is still here to look at manufacturing. So how would you describe the manufacturing sector in Nigeria?
Well, let me start by saying the manufacturing company or sector, they are part of companies most, they actually drive the growth of a particular company. Because
Okay.
if you look at it, the growth perspective is what you have been able to manufacture locally that will drive your growth in terms of the forest inflow and other things that actually will be better placed in a particular company, a good pedestrian of development.
Okay.
And what we are saying here is that the manufacturing sector plays a very vital role in developing another in a country. So, we've seen from the present government giving a lot of incentivize a lot of things for them.
Okay, we'll go deeper into that. But first, let's bring in the CEO of Thermoclays, who is joining us via Zoom into the discussion, John Ogunlela. Good morning and welcome to Business Insights.
Good morning and thanks for having me.
It's our pleasure. Now, looking at manufacturing, some persons sometimes get it maybe confused, but you'll be the one to say if there's a confusion. Is there a difference between manufacturing and production?
Well, of course, manufacturing is production. Production with an eye on profit. You know, you can produce without an eye on profit. Maybe the public sector kind of production, when you produce, for example, potable water and you supply it to the public, you aren't doing that with an eye on profits. You may just produce and try to recover some cost. But in manufacturing, you are trying to produce, the quality must be there, the quantity must be adequate must be adequate to cover your cost and also produce, get a profit. So there is a little bit of difference between both.
All right. So now let's look at the types of manufacturing that we have going on in Nigeria. We know that globally, we have companies who are into a type of manufacturing, maybe make to stock manufacturing, make to order, or make to assemble. Do we have all of these types of manufacturing going on in Nigeria, or for some reasons we have some and unable to do some?
We have some, but the issue in Nigeria has always been to be focused on productivity and to have a lifestyle, a culture of productivity. We can't make so many things because our technology is dated. You know, practically all our technology are imported. So when you have to battle with currency issues, you have to battle with clearing things at the port, and you just tend to settle for what you have instead of trying to update, you know? And you will know that we aren't there yet when you hear people talk about, the common people on the street and even policymakers, they will say something like, oh, government should open companies, you know, start manufacturing, and that will employ people. But the truth is that manufacturing no longer employs people as such, because a whole lot of things have been automated. So we're just at the end of the beginning stages in manufacturing.
So what does being at the beginning stages mean when you talk about manufacturing?
Yeah, that means we know we have the need, and we have the sense that, oh, we should put one and two together to produce three. You know, we recognize the need, we talk about it, but we're yet to put it together and act on it in concert and adopt it as a culture.
So what are the challenges that are hindering manufacturing as it should be in a whole in Nigeria?
Please come again.
What are the factors challenging manufacturing in Nigeria? Because when I asked if we're doing all types of manufacturing as seen in some other clime, you said that manufacturing, we're doing some of it, not all of it, not all the types of manufacturing. Like we didn't have make to stock kind of manufacturing, make to order, make to assemble, all the different types of manufacturing in Nigeria. So I'm asking, what are the challenges? Why are we not at maybe close to near full capacity manufacturing in Nigeria? I know that no country can actually produce all of its needs, but at least producing or manufacturing basically most of our needs.
Well, let's just take a case in point using GSK, the latest the latest of the major manufacturers to pull out of Nigeria. A few days ago, someone sent me a message on WhatsApp to this effect. He's a lecturer, and when I saw the message, I didn't open it because I was just tired of depressing news. But this morning, early in the morning, I opened it and I read some newspaper reports about it. Why is GSK pulling out? They're pulling out because of the traditional reasons. No infrastructure, they can't repatriate their money to the United Kingdom. They produced in Nigeria and end in Naira, and they can't get dollars to your pound sterling to send back to their home country. And we keep talking about these factors that challenge our manufacturing year in, year out. We've been talking about these things for as long as I have known formal education in Nigeria. What are the factors mitigating against this and that? We keep discussing these problems, but we are unable to proffer solution. It isn't good enough, okay? So I'd rather we discuss the solutions. What's the way forward? There is no good in knowing the problems if you can't move on it. And I think by and large, the problem we have is a cultural problem. You blame the government. I'm tired of blaming the government. And there was a president, a military president in the past who one day blamed the people. And I remember in 1998, I was in a meeting where one of our biggest politicians at the time, Pa Abraham Adesanya, also blamed the people and said, when it's time, the people will arise and suck themselves out. So some of us have even become experts in the blame game. Some people have made their PhDs on the blame game. It isn't good enough. Now, manufacturing is a product of not just knowledge, but attitude. Attitude is at times more important than even knowledge, than even know-how. We need a change of attitude. We need to understand that, oh, sorry, I have power restored.
Okay, John Ogunlele, before you joined us, we had and still have with us Jimoh Lateef, who has been talking with us and will continue looking at the issue. Now, Jimoh, John mentioned that one of the challenges of manufacturing is the problem with repatriation of funds, and that's why some companies are leaving Nigeria. But looking at the solutions, is there a way around this? How can we handle the problem of repatriation of funds for manufacturing companies that are set up by foreigners or by foreign companies?
Thank you. I really want to align with him in some statement he made as to most of us have had the economic solution problem of this country as far back as time memorial. I remember in those days when we talk about the localization the Uteriba of this world, the Lipsy that did economics, understand what I'm saying. These are things we've been reading. We provide solution on the face of the book, but in real time we can do anything. But the main problem here is that what the problem is that we know affect any is what to produce, how to produce, and when and to whom to produce to. What to produce is not a problem. They know what to produce. How to produce it becoming outdated. I want to agree with that, align with them. We have an outdated mechanism towards, talk about production and
manufacturing, yes.
Production is an end product of what, if manufacturing is set to the produce for you. So production is just a child of what manufacturing do.
Okay.
What I'm saying in the sense that the production, what determines your production? You know what to produce. How do you want to produce it? We are no more in era. Okay, for instance, you are producing maybe tire. Remember in those Dunlop of this world, I don't know what that. There are a lot of things that taking over. If the robotic engineering side is there, they handle this at a very low. You can't go on with human capital to be able to. But there are a lot of things there are cheaper labels in terms of artificial intelligence that will help you drive your manufacturing product to the. So it's not a problem that we need to have a technology that the country must be technology driven to be able to allow a manufacturing sector to take the seat. By doing that, they produce at less cost to be able to have a good margin for distribution. Now, let's go to the repatriation in terms of
of funds.
Now, it's a very tall because the problem is just simply forex. We've been talking, and that's why we have the problem now. To even solve it is not even the solving that matters. How do you to hand enough
forex
to be able to pay? I can't support borrowing because if you borrow now, what are you doing? You are increasing the burden. Now, there's a difference between servicing the debt and paying the debt. We are servicing the debt. Means that we have not even paid the real money. We are only paying the interest aspect of it. So people should distinguish. So adding another burden of borrowing to pay, I won't support. All we need to do, and that is why we are trying to look at a way to generate more funds to be able to provide the buffer for the break or for the gap in supply and demand of forex. And you can see the current government have been trying to do a lot of, sometimes use an artificial. There was a time they did a parallel and the high window, the price almost the same.
Margin
these are the things we're looking at. That, okay, the main problem, but the main problem is still that we need to find a way to generate more foreign inflow in terms of foreign. But even this foreign is something we are even looking at. Foreign investors, they will still need to repatriate the returns or to their account. There's a very big, we really need to sit down. Maybe we need to cut on some expenditures or in terms of the wastage needs to be so that we can have more foreign flow. The importation of some things that we produce in Nigeria should be stopped so that by the time we encourage more exports rather than the importation, we produce more exporting goods than local. We have, if you produce for local, and both for the exports too. This will help us in ameliorating the problem of foreign exchange scarcity. Being that as it may, the foreign exchange is a function of what you have and the reserve. If you don't have enough reserve, you'll not be able to have a foreign exchange to withstand the expenditure that's come from that in terms of your repayment of loan or those things. So it's a total, but I believe this government knows about it and they're working towards it. But the JS, talking about the internal issue in Nigeria that happened in terms of cost of, we have a lot of issues that, and there's a lot more domestic problem. Security, all those things may affect a because if you cite in somewhere very in the northern part is insecure, how would you be able to go there? Nobody goes there. You can't invest in farmland anymore. So these are problems they are perennial problems that need to be sorted out internally. In fact, we need to stabilize our internal economy before we start looking at those the macroeconomy. Let's say microeconomy for going to macro.
Okay, quickly, let's look at two things. One of them is risk. We know that manufacturing is highly risky because sometimes you can't predict the demand for the manufactured goods or even the acceptance of the goods. So how can manufacturers mitigate this risk? I know that there is insurance, but how much of insurance is available to manufacturers in Nigeria?
Risk mitigation for the manufacturer, because I believe one thing, before they start a business, we have done the feasibility study, and every year they do budgets to be able to know what they can carry and what they cannot carry. Except if you're manufacturing, you know what, you have to look at your environment. Part of your assumption you take into what is your GDP, what is the foreign inflation, how do you have to spread like 5 years plan to be able to know. This is a way of knowing you have to identify your risk first. One of the steps to risk mitigation to identify the risk. If the risk is it a risk I can take in, if I can't, let me take it out, give it to an insurance company, then how do I mitigate the risk? And you know the kind of product, you know the problem. Like if you're a farmer now in Nigeria, and you want to site a farmland in somewhere like in the north, you have to spread out those risks. Are you ready to take this, or are you ready to take it off somebody? You must hem on it good. But one thing is, the risk management is still is a company problem, because before you invest, you have synthesized all the investments you want to do. So when you synthesize those things, gives you an idea of what you are going into, and when because you have foresee. Except you got your mission statement, your vision statement. Except you have a blood vision. Blood vision that we are still nothing. You know somebody can make 10 million. Meanwhile, you can't make more than 3 million because you want to induce investor to money. These are the problems that normally happen. The manufacturing sector needs to sit down, look at the perennial problem they have. How would they help to sort it and things like that? Nobody can. There's nothing to. It's you that will manage it. Nobody will manage it for you.
Okay. So how do they contribute now to the economy, manufacturing industry? What's their contribution?
The contribution, there are many folks. But I told you, one of the stepping stones for a developing country is a very vibrant manufacturing sector. Apart from producing for local, they earn foreign inflow for you. In terms of taxation, they pay tax to the government in various ways. Company income tax, VAT, withholding tax, and others. So all these things that we need to those are the things, part of the thing, the two main reasons I think they are more important because they drive the growth of the country. That's the major thing.
Being as important as they are, what role can the government play in creating an enabling environment for manufacturers to thrive in the country?
Yes, it's very simple. Give them a very good a good environment in terms of giving them the good infrastructure, the tax incentives, another thing that make life bearable for them and the staffs to make them thrive in the competing economic we have.
Thank you very much, Jimoh Lateef, for being with us on the show today. Yeah, it's unfortunate that John Ogunlila couldn't continue with us due to some power issues from his end, but we appreciate your time with us on Business Insights today. Tomorrow will be another time for us to look at one other small business that contributes to the growth of the economy. 10 a.m. is the time. I am Blessing AG, and it's a wrap. Bye.